Alright, so I got the D16A stripped down to pretty much how I wanted to get it for right now. What I'm going to go ahead and do is start working with the clutch. So I need to remove this automatic transmission plate, and I'm going to start changing out some gaskets. And here's what I got going. What I'm going to be working on today, because I want to go ahead and change this clutch over, is the rear main seal. So I need to take that automatic transmission plate off, all those little 12-point bolts there, and then behind there, the rear main seal. This is a brand new one here from Honda. Since this is a non-VTEC engine, you know, it's from Japan, I'm assuming it's essentially a D16Y7, and that's pretty much what the parts guy confirmed at Honda. So all these here are for a D16Y7. This is a new rear main seal. I got a cam seal, distributor O-ring, one of the water pump rings. I need to get another one of those. And then here's a new valve cover with all the grommets and stuff like that. So yeah, and then of course Honda bond. But let's go ahead and start and get these flywheel bolts off. All right, so I'm gonna start by removing this pressure plate. There's the lightweight flywheel. Interesting little marks there. Not sure what that's all about. Is that a heat thing or what? There's the pressure plate and then the clutch. This is a stage 3 pressure plate, stage 1 clutch disc, and then the lightweight flywheel. Okay, so here we are, back with the big breaker pole here. 17 with the star nut. It doesn't want to fit on the gun, so whoop-de-doo. Got the hammer wedged in there so that it holds it in place. We're gonna try to break this thing free. Yeah, it does work. Definitely takes some elbow grease, but it works. Like you gotta bear hug it. You do a real good arm and shoulder workout. Knowing is half the battle here, kids. I'm telling you, man, this thing is great. Yeah, I can kind of just wiggle these guys off by hand now. Not that it ended up mattering really, but this FLYWHEEL rear main seal was actually starting to leak a little bit too. And so that's not long that that thing was in there. And you know, there's always questions around FLYWHEEL and all the, you know, advanced auto parts kind of things. So going with the Honda gasket this time, hopefully that works out better. And then of course sealing it up with Honda bond. All right, so I got that automatic plate off. This is the D16A. And you know, the dilemma always is, do you replace the gaskets or not? I'm going ahead and doing it. Just for the fact that this is supposedly an original gasket on here from Honda. And this engine is what, 19, 20 years old now. This thing was made in 2000. So this gasket probably is just, it looks okay, but it's probably pretty brittle. And you can't really see it, but there was a bit of oil right down here at the bottom. So yeah, I have the brand new one there from Honda. I just need to go ahead and replace this thing. Is it pretty rigged? Sure, but it works. Oh, buddy. There we go. That's really all I need for right now, just to get to this guy. Of course, once I get the thing up in the car, or who knows, maybe I'll leave it like this and do it, but it seems a little sketchy. Once I get it up in the car, I need to change out the oil pump as well once I get that. So I'm not gonna change out this oil pan gasket just yet. I'm gonna reuse it, but let's go ahead and get this main seal. Got this guy off. Most of the rubber bits from the original Honda gasket came off, but I'm gonna still go through and scrape all that other stuff off. And you see here, it's looking pretty good, but yeah, gonna scrape all that bit off too and replace this gasket. Just something to note here, this is the new gasket just sitting on top, and it looks like it's gonna sit in there just perfectly. I just wanted to make sure of that, you know, it's like it's a little scary taking out the original one. I did see on here there are a series of letters and numbers. If you guys see that in kind of the top left there. It says AH3732V, just so you know. AH3732V. And then on the original, I noticed AH3732U. So it is essentially the same part, except for the last letter is different. I don't know. I hope that doesn't mean something bad, but you know, as far as I could tell, looks-wise, they're both right there. So I think this is going to work out just fine. So essentially inside this ring, you know, you want to make sure it's nice and clean and you haven't struck it with the hammer or anything that's you're trying to get the old one out with. Because if it has any gouges in it, you know, oil's going to leak past it. So this one looks really good, real clean inside. I've got my new seal here, and it's already got some grease on the inside, so it's ready to go. For the outside, I'm just going to take a little bit of oil and put it around the ring. So I got some oil on my finger here. And just kind of put it along the outside here, and then carefully push this guy into place from the top. I'm going to use my rubber mallet to fully seat it. You want it to go all the way to the back there. All right, so the rear main seal is in, and you see this guy is nice and pressed in there. You want that seal to be real nice and tight all up in there. That way nothing's gonna hopefully nothing's gonna leak out. And then of course I went and cleaned up this area right here where the old sealant was, and then all along here. So I'm gonna take my new Honda Bond there. Then we're gonna go ahead and seal this bad boy up. And to actually press this rear main seal in, the new one, actually use the old one, plus the rubber mallet. And that way you can kind of just tap, tap, tap-a-roo all along the edge there, and it seats it in place nice and straight. Alright, so I got my Honda Bond, and with the clean surface here, I'm just going to go ahead and apply a nice thin bead all the way around. And there we go. This stuff does work fast. You have to use it within 5 minutes, have it bolted down. So let's do that. Alright, and then with these 4 bolts here, it's just hand tight. I think it's like 10 foot-pound, but that's hand tight, man. You don't have to kill these things on there. The new rear main is on, and the engine is back on the ground. Again, I'm not changing the oil pan gasket just yet because later on I'm going to be doing that oil pump. Alright, so here we go with the flywheel, clutch disc, and pressure plate. I'm reusing these from my Y8. These are pretty much brand new pieces, man. And that same thing goes with this bearing here. This pilot bearing that sits in the flywheel, this thing has maybe 500 miles on it, maybe. So it's brand new, and so I am not going to be replacing it. but you know, obviously I would if this thing was super old. With a dab of thread locker on each one of these bolts here, I'm going to torque these things down to 87 foot-pound, and we'll go ahead and get this flywheel on. Got my torque wrench set to 87 foot-pound. Whatever that is, it's definitely on there. Must have been heat something, I guess. I don't know. Well, the rest of that surface is all cleaned up anyway. So let's go ahead and get the clutch alignment tool. Alright you guys, so making some really great progress. Flywheel, clutch, disc, and pressure plate all torqued down. Again, the flywheel bolts were 87 foot-pound. Then we used the clutch alignment tool for the disc. And then these final bolts here for the pressure plate were just 20 foot-pound. Thread locker, of course, on the flywheel bolts. But yeah, that thing is looking good. Again, I have no problem reusing that pilot bearing that's in there. This thing has done hardly any miles. Maybe 3 or 4 laps out at the firm, you know, nothing. So I'm comfortable reusing that. And the same is going to happen with this transmission here. This throwout bearing is totally new as well. I'm going to be reusing this guy. We're just going to go ahead and disassemble this. We'll grease it all back up. We'll make sure the butterfly pin is in good shape. We'll go ahead and clean this thing up. Hopefully, I can use some purple power, and with my new pressure washer, I'll be able to clean this guy up pretty good. We'll go ahead and clean up these forks. Eventually, I got a new shifter coming for that guy, which I think you guys have seen, so I'm really excited about that. And then hopefully in the next episode, we'll get all that done, all put back together, and we're gonna mate it up to this guy. So we'll see how that goes, but thank you all so much for watching, and we'll talk to you in the next.